Okay, my friends, this is tragic, really. A desert drifter was going out and finding things that he couldn't explain and nobody could explain. And he says it's being revealed. Now, this was 7 months ago. Unfortunately, he was killed in a car accident. You know, tragic, absolutely tragic. Because he was bringing things forward that we should know about. Now, this has been very suppressed. Now, there's Giant's Causeway and a desert drifter, but this is the one I want to talk about today. Is someone just sent me this one. Natural or man-made. I found a landscape sculpture, giants, on Google Earth. This is Desert Drifter again. That's a year ago. So, you know, I tried to engage with him, and I got to be honest, I don't recall any response, but you can see he's talking about these things. And in this video, I am going to explain what he is seeing and his questions about could these things have been real that these ancient peoples talked about. Who can explain this landscape? And I can. And you will be able to explain it too after you see it. And it's things that we should know about. You know, it takes the mystery out of things, but you know, life is a mystery that I think you're supposed to solve. I don't think you're just supposed to be mysterious your whole life and then die. I think you're supposed to engage and try to understand, and that's what he was doing, and it's absolutely tragic. But fabulous job. Okay, so this is Desert Drifter, and he's going on a hike. Here's what he has to say.
Goes on. Given what I'm already seeing here at the start, I think we're in for a pretty unique, special trip. As I ventured in, I contemplated the oral histories and legends I've heard about these places. The stories say spirits come and go, ancestors remain frozen in stone, and mysterious creatures still live within. I wondered if any of it was true.
It's all true.
So if you're wondering, is there a goal or a destination in mind? Absolutely not. I am literally just wandering the next 2 days, seeing what I might find in a landscape this bizarre. What is going on here?
All right, I can explain all of these things. And I have many times. He's looking at things that are eroded flesh, skin, membranes, skin, down into the lower levels of the flesh. And I'm just going to clip here and there because otherwise we'll be here all day. But he's looking at different things. He's got one of the things that I saw somewhere here. He had a tree. There it is, right there. Very rare. Did these trees? You know what? That could be a hair. You know what? That's a hair. Okay, this is just way past amazing. These are hairs. This is skin. And I knew it was the skin because the fine powdery clay is the skin.
Special trip.
So now he's walking through this. This is a powder.
As I ventured in, I contemplated the oral histories and legends I've heard about these places. The stories say spirits come and go. Ancestors remain frozen in stone. And mysterious creatures still live within. I wondered if any of it was true.
Okay, he's wondering if any of these ancient tales are true. This is Ovid, who wrote all of the creation ages of mankind, the flood, Deucalion, who is Noah, everything right down the line. And the first 2 lines of his 12,000 line epic is this. Lines 1 and 2 I intend to speak of forms changed into new entities. Accompanying this theme is often violence inflicted upon a victim whose transformation becomes part of the natural landscape. These were gods that could turn things into anything they want, and they could turn themselves into anything they want. A great variety among the transformations. This is metamorphosis, it's by Ovid. They could be from human to inanimate objects like the Nile River, or constellations, or animals, or plants. From animals, ants, fungi, mushroom, from human to humans, from one sex to another, from one color to another. They could do anything they wanted because they control matter. Okay, remember, he's questioning what this is all about. Is this stuff real? Do people tell him all these stories about our landscape, and here's what it was like, and here's what our ancestors told us? And these are only just one of the whole entire world had basically the same story. But he is intelligent enough, was intelligent enough, and had a strong enough mind to be able to embrace the thought of what if it was true?
As I ventured in, I contemplated the oral histories and legends I've heard about these places. The stories say spirits come and go. Ancestors remain frozen in stone. And mysterious creatures still live within.
Let me just make it, I'm going to just keep kicking
I wondered if any of it was true.
All right, I'm just going to keep cutting in here and there to where I can show something of significance. This is skin. All right, what he's seeing here again is skin. Well, on top of skin, there's hair. At first I saw what I thought was trees.
Went on here.
And it freaked me out because the trees did not last. But they're not trees.
Around.
You see these things up here? That is the bottom of the root ball of hairs. He's got some real good shots. I have a whole batch of them.
Check in.
The hair is growing down into here, into the lower layer. That's the cradle. The cradle's the bottom of the hair. This is a hair root ball too. And I'll show you, and the hair actually is laying on top. And I thought to myself, how did that tree get on top of this stuff? Let's get to where the hair is. Here we go. So he's looking.
Flower.
This is all skin and like.
Look what's holding
These are the ones right here. Watch this.
You got, so just,
You see that? That's the hair papilla right here. The very bottom of the hair. I'm going to show you this in the anatomical. Everything is here he's looking at. And it erodes from the top off. And you'll see as we go through. But that's the hair papilla. Okay, and I believe coming down here is going to be the muscle, but let's see.
I know scale's hard in the camera, but so, 4 fingers.
That's gooey and it can move.
And there's a little
Same
more
thing
over
there.
Here. I mean, that's a big old chunk of sandstone.
That's the cradle that cradles the bottom of the root ball. And that could be the sebaceous gland hanging off there. Or it could have something to do with the attachment of the erector pili muscle. And I'll show you all these things anatomically. But he's asking these questions. What is this? How did this thing form? There's another one over there. See that? That's the bottom of the root ball of the hair. Now right here, you see these colors? That's blood. And that's the bottom servicing the bottom where the root ball starts to come off. You see how this is, same thing here. This is peeled back. I didn't do that. This stays underneath. It's broken off. And these are those two are blood vessels, which are these. And there's one after another of these. I have some shots of fields of these things. And as a matter of fact, you can see them from Google Earth in places. The creatures were, like Ovid said, part of the natural landscape. Now let's just continue here until we see the hairs. But don't forget, I'm saying all of this was skin. This was skin above there, and then the hairs protruding up from there. You see, it's the same deal as this one, same deal as this one. But they erode easily. This is just really eroding.
Out here in the desert, you see a lot where there's like a softer layer of rock. I think this is like a shale or mudstone, kind of same thing.
Yeah, they're mud fossils. And this is the cradle underneath, and the root ball went up from there. Let me just show you what the anatomical is so you can get a good idea. Hold on. All right. This is the root ball right there. You see the blue and the red? Those are little blood vessels that service this, which we saw. And you see that little cradle there? That stays, and the rest erodes off. It's the same as this. This is a hair follicle. And they have the erector pili muscle that attaches there. They have the sebaceous gland, which is here. And then the root shaft goes up. And if you look at it carefully, all right, this is what you're seeing eroded away from the hair shaft and all that stuff. All that stuff is gone, and all you end up with is what would be left here, would be laying there. And I have the same thing here. And if this stuff ended up being in the ground, which it is, where he is, we can discuss it. All right, so let's do the biology. This part is still in the ground. This stuff right here that's cradled this, still in the ground. And the red and the blue is the blood vessels, and they turn black and red when they erode. All that stuff is still there. Everything else is gone in most cases. The hair that would come up the top here has fallen off and looked like a piece of wood. I said, wow, this is very rare, because I've been telling everybody, no, the wood didn't make it, it just went away. And it did, basically, almost. I can't find hardly any wood. Anyway, this is the attachment of the muscle, the erector pili muscle. That lets your hand do this. That is the sebaceous gland. That's the hair shaft, and all of that little wrinkly stuff is, skin. And it just, as you're going to see, I have all the detail on this. So that is what the hair follicle is. And this is a little more detail. I think I might have already showed you this, but this is what was left. This is what he's looking at right here. That's all that's left of that stuff. And he's down somewhere here, and this is just all skin, really weak stuff, because it's always moving and doing this, just fluffy stuff. Now, coming out of there is the sebaceous gland, the hair, all that stuff. Now, what does the hair look like up close? Well, it's this muddy, gooey stuff. It's just everywhere. This stuff erodes like crazy. Almost all of the dust in your house is hair. I mean, is mud from your face. This is nothing more than mud. Now, he's going to find a bunch of these little flaky things all over the place. And I thought it was a tree when I looked at it. And then I saw it was all segmented like this, and it had an inner core, which I don't think it's a tree. I'm almost 100% sure now it's not a tree. We're going to look at it, and it flaked off in so many little flakes. I don't think the tree would be like that. And this is what they do. And then they erode so that they're really just in blocks. And you can see that at Crowley Lake. Here's Crowley Lake right here. You see how the powdery stuff, that's skin. That's the skin of a creature's face. And I know who the creature is. It's Scorbzilla. The red and the black is blood in two different states of oxygenation. This is the oxygenated blood, which is the stuff that makes you live. This is the stuff that comes back to get oxygenated. There's just no doubt about it. And these are what would have been hairs. And here they are up close. You see it? Nobody can account for this. oh, they dig burrows, they did this. Hey, I got no idea what they're seeing. And geologists stay away from things that they can't account for. So this was really brave of Desert Drifter to come out and start being honest about things. That's a rarity. This is just incredible. This is exactly like my hair, identical. Mine left this sort of thing in the ground too, or in the guy's face, wherever it happened. And the rest popped off in its totality. I mean, that's fabulous. Now, and that's a good size. That's 2 inches wide, hair follicle. That's substantially larger than any creature alive today. And again, Ovid discussed this. We're going to look at what he's looking at, because he's got some very, very good footage of this, and he's asking the questions. And unfortunately, I would love to be able to interact with him, but tragic. You see that? That's one of these little blood vessels coming in here. Right there. All right, now let's go forward. Okay, here we go. He's going to be looking at this questioning.
And then you've got a harder layer on top, so that erodes at a slower speed than what's below it. From a distance, I was trying to figure out, like what it...
You see this? This is the powdery skin. The black, it looks like it's chipping off of the face of the, there's going to be like a really gritty outside layer of connective tissue that is your skin. And that, I believe, is the skin over the top of the floaty stuff, which is the kaolin clays.
Is it sand? Is it rock?
Kaolin clays. These are the layers of tissue. You don't see them. As a matter of fact, let me show you another thing to make it more obvious. This is a slab of skin. Well, it's a fascia. And those are the membranes. You end up with a basement layer, but up here is all fluffy and stuff, and then you get layer after layer after layer. And he's going to be showing this, but this is so staggeringly large. We're only at the top couple of layers, and that's the skin, and that's one thick layer of fluffy stuff, which turns into kaolin clay.
So over there, I just spotted, I think that's some petrified wood.
That's what I thought too. Watch this now.
Yeah.
It sure looks like it, and it looks like all little bits and pieces of wood, but I think that is from a hair. Let's take a look at it. I would love to have somebody that has expertise in this to tell me what they think, because we know we have hair here. We know there was hair here. What happened to it? I would say most of it eroded away and was washed away, but this piece is quite significant.
Oh, that's definitely what it is.
I would have said that
it's kind
too.
of crazy. I mean, look at it. Looks like a sawmill out here. All these little pieces on the ground.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Back up, please. Wait a second. Let me back that up.
Listen to the sound.
You see all these little gritty pieces? I think those are hairs. Pieces of that hair. Let's get back to where we can see the blood. Hold on.
It's kind of crazy. I mean, look at it. Looks like a sawmill out here. All these little...
All right, first of all, I want you to notice this. These are the colors of blood. These are the colors of blood. And the hair has blood servicing it up to a certain point, and then not so much. Look at this. You see that crack there? And this going straight up the center? I could see it could be a tree. But I could see it could be a hair too. I showed you the cross section of the hair. They have a center core that is not completely associated to these lumps. I don't know. This is something we have to look into. This is what this research is all about. But I'm telling you right now, I see blood there.
Pieces on the ground.
Now, usually you don't see the bloodiness. Well, I don't know. But boy, I'll tell you, there's a lot of scruff. And that's what happened to hair. As I showed you, if you see hairs in the microscope, you see all these little flakes of, it's mud, basically. But it solidified. Why it turned into like these really scrappy pieces, I don't know. If it is, in fact,
Listen to this
hair.
sound. It was wood, now it's rock.
It sure looks like it. I can't disagree with that whatsoever.
This piece
Aha!
is particularly
This one, oh,
cool.
there we go. There we go. That's not wood. That's blood. That is blood. And this appears to be, it must be right at the root of the hair, or somewhere in the facial skin. That is biology right there. That's not plant life. That is creature life.
Pretty sure those are still the growth rings in there.
That's blood. And these are layers of tissue. And the different mosses love that blood. They just go in after it. This is the core of the hair, right down at the very, very bottom, where there's still a lot of blood, and it's starting to, all these little layers, which are the same as these little layers here. But they're just, it's down deeper in the hair where there's still a lot of blood, because the hair papilia comes in and it services it with blood. And that's what these two different types of mosses are growing on. And this could be tested. This could be tested.
That you can kind of make out.
You see? Moss loves blood. That's what they live on. They love blood. Green moss, red moss, yellow, all kinds of different mosses. Depends on the climates and the conditions, the pH, all of that stuff that's here. But I'm going to tell you right now, I have no doubt in my mind whatsoever that particular piece is biological. Now, and when I say that, I mean creature. Now we're looking at a piece of, it's going to be the same as the other. It's right here, it's together. So I'm going to go with the assumption this is part of the other piece I just showed you, which in my mind, there's no question is biology. Let's look at what it shows here. He's going to be seeing this down close. Here we go. We're right at the end. Let's see if we can make any determination. He's doing a fabulous job. All right.
So amongst all this petrified wood, I just noticed, look at all these little teeny...
Hold on, let me get back to there. Here, okay, so he's looking at this, and he's going to be looking at the end. I say this is right down at the hair papilia area, where the two different bloods are coming in, and the hair is just starting to erupt from the root. That would be my take. All right, so this is basically one little area, and this is basically another little area. Totally different chemistry in both areas. Starting to create all of that little scruff that's around the hair, which I showed you in the microscopic shots. Is starting to create that crust around these two different cores, which are going to form the root. And
So amongst all this petrified wood, I just noticed, look at all these little teeny tiny plants coming up. I know that scale is basically impossible.
they're growing on blood. They love blood.
impossible to tell just from a video. So to give you guys, I mean, take a look at that. Like, it's not even half of a fingernail. I traveled in deeper,
Skin.
amazed at the stark contrast between complete.
There was some bloody. This is an area where there was a lot of artery blood. Red is artery blood, black is vein blood. Now, where he is right now, I don't know. Like I say, I haven't watched this. I figured I'd drag you through the dirt with me.
Complete desolation and surreal beauty.
All right. Well, I can tell you something right now. I imagine this could very well be the heart area. It's a blood vessel. I can tell you that right now. That's an artery gushing blood at one time, dried up, the balls remained, and the rest turned into just muddy runoff. Whatever that is, I don't know. But it sure looks like there was an attachment of an artery to that right there.
It seemed to be a land of some extinct race of giants who had left their debris and bones scattered about.
You are right, my friend. You are 100% correct. What a tragedy we lost him. Those are, I don't know, they could be hairs, they could be...
Eventually I climbed a slight ridge and found myself surrounded nearly 360 degrees by a legion of hoodoos.
Okay, the hoodoos are
I had to admit, it felt like they were staring at me, watching my...
Those are the hair follicles. It's the bottoms of the hair follicles, and underneath you're going to see
my every move.
that they have the
Perhaps the legends were correct after all. Or it's very possible I've just been spending too much time alone out in the...
No, you're right, my friend. Don't see. This is the problem. Everybody's the guy's got to be crazy. That's impossible. No, if you look and think, it's not impossible. It's impossible to miss.
Desert. One thing I often think about when I'm out in these kind of bizarre landscapes is, how have people explained these landscapes?
They can't explain them. They just don't know. If you're a geologist, unless you're Myron, who will come up with the most insane claims you've ever seen, and he stands out and said, well, maybe it looks like a dragon, but no, that's just crazy. No, it's not. These things were gigantic creatures. And every one of them had the same stories. Serpents, dragons, monsters, giants, gods. And we are the ones that are so smart, we think they're idiots.
Over the centuries and millennia. I mean, the most common way today we would explain this in our modern world is in geological terms, and using geological language and time scales and all of that. But there's a lot of different ways to think about this, and I'm sure people have thought about it in many different ways over the years. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I know what I think.
How did all this come to be? Now that is a...
Now see, here's the key. A lot of things look like a lot of things. You have to understand what you're seeing. He's actually seeing the bottom of a hair. And they have so many layers. That's the key. If you look at something and you think this or that, that's okay. But I have people all day long sending me stuff. I see this, I see that, and just outlining things. Outlining things that I can't say no to any of them. I can't say yes to any of them. 99% of them. Some of them, yes. I'm finding absolutely stunning things people are sending me. But most is what you'd call pareidolia. Well, a lot of it is good stuff, and I call it PhDolia. They just can't see what's real.
Dinosaur, if I've ever seen one.
See, that's what I mean. He thinks it's a dinosaur.
So he's just about, honestly, a little taller than me. So, 6.5 feet tall.
That right there is this right here. That's the bottom. This is it right here. And this is the little gooey spot where it moves. You'll see this underneath all of them that have. And you'll be able to see the two little, right there. Those are the papillae. Into that gooey stuff so that it can rock. And that stays attached because this is what anchors it. All right, above that, it's just sort of just a hairball. You see it? It looks like something, but it's not the thing that it looks like. That happens a lot. See that? That's just all skin. And every one of these was a hair at one time.
Wow. Look at this. You got this long petrified wood log.
Actually, that is going to be a layer of tissue. Well, geez, I don't know. Let me take a good look at that. Well, let's take a look at it.
I'd say probably close to 40 feet long. So,
well, you know, he could be right. Hold on, let's think. What I'm going to do is just play this, and I'm going to dub into it what I believe he's seeing. And what I believe he's seeing right here is this engagement spot right here that held this ball in the creature's flesh, in the face. This little gooey stuff here would let this thing rock around and not get pulled out. There's a vein and an artery that come in, and then this little cradle, which is, in mine is missing because that's what happens, they break off. They stay with the anchor. Now, this led down through the skin down into the creature's body. They all have a stalk coming up to hold them in place. This one just happened to erode in this condition where it's all the way down. Most of them eroded and just fell off, but there's a ton of them that are still up here that hadn't eroded completely, but mostly. There'll be a few that are really exceptional. Now, he's seeing this and saying this is like one big long tree. And I can't completely dismiss that, but I don't think so. I think it's maybe like a guy's beard or something, which it doesn't even have to be that long. And all of these little layers, you see this in in hairs. And that thing there has eroded down to where we can see layers of, I believe these are layers of hair. Could be a tree, I can't completely discount that. This is like blood, and he's tapping on it, it's like iron, he's bing, 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 bing. This is the crunchy stuff that is what holds these things in here. And he's walking on it and saying it's all crunchy like popcorn. Now the reason it is all in this one particular area, it's not like you got one gigantic hair here. Its specific gravity and its floatiness brought it down to what they call flocculation, which is the things with the same natures flocculate together. Now he's looking down here saying, wow, what is this? The red and the black is blood. That's blood, and they come together because arteries and veins travel together, and they erode. Everything's going to erode, yes, and especially clay. Clay is, and that's facial stuff, skin, so forth. Tendons, not so much. Tendon, very, very tough, but skin and flesh and so forth, that does erode. And then he finds a whole bunch of petroglyphs down here. Look at this. And these things here, that's exactly what the sun looks like. Exactly what the sun particles look like. So he's going down looking at all this and trying to understand what he's seeing. A fabulous job doing what he's doing. Absolute tragedy to lose somebody this brilliant, that young. A fabulous, fabulous future ahead of him too. Tragedy. These are all layers of tissue. Starts up at the skin and it works its way down, and there's a ton of layers of tissue in the human body. It's very basically like this. All tissue is the same. It has to be layered after layer after layer, and there's different ones, red ones and white ones and yellow ones and black ones, and that's just the nature of life. The tissues, and because of the size of these creatures, you can't get your head around this. Very few people could, and he's talking about things that nobody was talking about because it's too much for the average human mind. Now he's showing things like this. That is a stalk. There was a ball right there. All right, the ball has fallen off somewhere. And these are these little flaky things that lets your stuff wobble. And, you know, he's just an absolute fabulous job. This is just nothing more than biology. And there is no geology. There is none. Okay, so he's seen another. I believe this is a hair. I see no reason whatsoever to think that a tree, this one solitary tree, was growing here and fell over. And I believe it was sticking straight up, right, probably right in the spot here. And it just didn't, it was one of the ones that didn't erode. It was on a stalk like that, and instead of eroding and falling off early and turning into little scraps, which you saw how flaky they ended up being, it laid on top of some stuff that protected it from just falling apart. That's all I can tell you. I believe it was up here. It just was one of these anomalies that didn't erode because it was so perfectly straight up on top of itself, is all I can think. If they're twisted even a little bit, look, they're going to go. And this thing here is as straight as an arrow. So I would say that was just perfectly straight up, didn't erode, and eventually toppled down onto other ones that were all over the place. There's just nothing but biology here. Okay, where Desert Drifter was, it sure looks to me like that was like basically like human skin and hair. This is a different story. This is in the desert over in the Sahara Desert, I guess. Well, whatever it is, it's right in that area. You'll see it in a minute. These are the actual hide emplacements to hold the hide of a creature together. These are not sand dunes. Let's come in and look a little closer one more time here. These are not sand dunes. Do you see what's going on down in here? This is like a grabber that grabs the skin. The skin can go this way, that way, this way, that way, but it'll always come back to where it should be. Now, somebody's been doing something out here. What they're doing, I don't know, but there's a road clearly coming through here to mine something out there or whatever, right in the middle of nowhere land. Now, as you can see, they're everywhere. It's not just one here and there. They're everywhere. Everywhere, everywhere, everywhere. Well, where are we? We're right here at the coil of Typhon. This is the coil of his leg. It's exactly what they said. His coils went all the way up to his head. Huge, one stretch this way, one stretch that way, miles and miles and miles, and that's true. You can't deny that. If you can, I don't know why you would do that. I'd like to have your explanation. And we know that Typhon is the dragon in the desert. Seen him hundreds of times. Right there with his throat running all the way down. Chopped there. All of those are dragon scales. You know, this is not in question at all, not even the tiniest bit anymore. It needs to be seen and discussed. Do you want to live in a world of reality, or do you want to have mystery your whole life and just say, oh, I wish I knew what that was. I wish I knew. I wish I knew. No, I don't want that. I want to be able to say, here's what it is. What does it mean? At that point, it's mystery. At this point, there's no more mystery. The mystery is, where did it all come from? Who's in charge? Where are they now? What are they going to do with us in the future? That's the mystery. I love you all.